this is Armstrong again. In the last video we looked at turning £100,000 into a £1.5 million portfolio without mortgages. You need to be starting off for that strategy with either a partner with £100,000 or with £100,000 of your own money. I understand that there's a lot of you that aren't starting with that figure, and what I'd like to do is explain to you what I would do if I was starting off with zero up to about £10,000. So if you've got somewhere between £1 and £10,000, this would be the strategy that I would be working on. First of all, I would make sure I was working this in the right area, because it's no good going round to estate agents to try and find deals and leads for people, for other people, in an area where below market value is difficult to do. And most of the people who are going to buy leads from you, who will pay you for deals, ready-made deals, want to do the deals no money down. So area is very, very important. So let me just go over what you'll be doing. You'll be sourcing properties for people who don't have the time to go out and source properties for themselves. And using that strategy, you can charge between about £2,000 and £5,000 for every single deal, depending on whether they can multi-let the property and the cash flow is very good, in which case you can charge £5,000, or if the cash flow's nominal, but it's maybe a bit below market value, you can charge £2,000. Who do you sell to? Well, the best thing to do is to find yourself somebody who actually wants to buy for you. Now, you'll be able to source somebody on this website who is looking to source deals, or to have someone source deals for you in our joint venture section. You can go to property network clubs and find somebody. I would be making sure you make the best use of your time and making sure you have some sort of notice with you on a clipboard to say you source property, looking for someone who wants to find a property sourcer to work with. Once you've found somebody to work with, you can then go off with their details around the estate agents. Now, there are several different ways of sourcing leads. Sourcing leads can be done by visiting estate agents, by leafleting, by doing newspaper advertising. Now, on average, every property that we buy costs us at least £1,000 in sourcing fees for our leafleting or for our leaflets, and estate agents are a little bit cheaper. Once you're dealing with estate agents, there may be a fee to pay, but we'll go into more details about that later on. But if you're actually sourcing and selling deals to people and you're earning £2,000 to £5,000 per deal, I don't recommend that you go down the leafleting and newspaper route. I recommend you actually go to estate agents. Then we move on to area. Again, as I said earlier on, it's not going to be working in London, it's not going to be working in areas where property prices are quite dear, because you can't do below market value. And people buying these deals will want to buy the properties with very little deposit. If you want to sell the deals easy, there'll be enough cash back in the deals to pay your fee. Now, you need to be working in an area where the market is very slow. Time it takes to sell a property is on the long side, i.e. 12 weeks or more, and in an area where the market's pretty stagnant. As long as the cash flow is good in the area, people will be happy to buy them deals and not so much be looking for capital appreciation from them. So it will mean, if you live south, travelling north, maybe 1, maybe 2 days a week, there are good days to go around estate agents, and we'll be discussing that later when we talk about dealing with estate agents. However, as it stands at the moment, you'll be needing to go to a place where market is slow. Predominantly, this is the north-south divide. You hear story after story of people buying properties up north for people down south. Personally, I would want to know the person who's buying for me, so that's very important that you're working with 1, 2, maybe up to 10 people that you've met that want you to source and buy properties for them, and they're happy to pay you a fee for each one. That is pretty much it in a nutshell. There is no reason why, if you're operating in the right area and you have enough buyers for the properties, you can't buy at least one property a week, therefore earning yourself £2,000 to £5,000 per week. It may come to a point where you're spending a little bit more time actually chasing deals through, because you'll need to become a property chaser as well. But if you spend 2 days travelling up north, maybe staying in a bed and breakfast for one night, then travelling back, and spending 1 day actually making sure all the deals in your pipeline go to fruition, because there's nothing worse than a deal falling out of bed because somebody's not chasing it. 3 days a week you can work to generate yourself a great income. If you haven't got that amount of time and you can only work weekends, can be done. Not the best days to call on estate agents, but not the end of the world. There are lots of ways of shortcutting deals and contacting agents and getting them calling you. Again, something we discuss in detail on a different date, especially on our courses. For the second phase, I wouldn't recommend starting this until you've got a working capital of at least £10,000, so preferably somewhere between £10,000 and £20,000. Now, if you're fortunate enough to be in that position, you can really get going and get motoring in the business. You can start building your portfolio, you can start making yourself some serious money. Now, it does involve you to take out mortgages, so if you can't take mortgages out, again, you need to be working with somebody who can. I buy on average one property a week that we buy, do up, sell, and make around about £20,000 per deal. So nothing particularly risky, just bread and butter stuff, but lots of them. Now, let's look at some basics, some basic facts. First of all, you need to be in the right area. Now, looking at the previous strategy, working in an area where it's very slow to sell property, I wouldn't recommend that you stick to that same area. You need to be working in an area where you can actually buy something, do it up and sell it, and it's not going to take a great deal of time to sell. So, whereas before we're looking at areas that take more than 12 weeks to sell, this time we're actually looking at areas that take less than 12 weeks to sell on average. And there are lots of different ways that we'll discuss later on how to actually find out how long it takes to sell a property in a certain postcode. Now, once you've worked an area, it needs to be an area that will work for below market value, and it needs to be an area where you can sell fairly quickly. Then it's a matter of marketing for deals. Now you can start involving your newspaper advertising. Now you can start involving leafleting. If you're doing this full time, there are ways of setting up a leaflet company so that your actual leafleting is not only free, you can actually make a profit by delivering leaflets for other people at the same time. I don't mean other people who want their property leaflets delivered. I mean taxi firms, pizza companies, anybody who puts a leaflet through your letterbox is potentially a client for your leaflet delivery company. So that's the different marketing strategies, and then it's all about picking up a property at the right money. I guarantee you'll make your money by buying right, not by selling for more than the local price, by doing extra bits to the property. So you need to be making sure that you're buying with enough margin in so that you can do the refurb, you can cover your cost, and you can walk away with £20,000. Once you've got it working right and you're buying at the right money, you can look at this particular cash flow. You can take your £10,000 or £20,000 and buy one deal. Once the ball's running, within 4 to 6 months you will have bought the property, done it up, funded it out of your £10,000, and also funded the refurb out of your £10,000, and maybe having to add a bit in from credit cards. Make sure you get interest-free ones. Once the property sells, you will make yourself somewhere around about £20,000. Now that means after 6 months, when you've bought when you've bought one property and sold it, you've now got around £30,000, assuming you were starting with 10. You can then go and buy 2 properties. Again, it's going to take about 6 months. You buy the 2 properties, you do them up, you sell them. You're buying them no money down. You're using your 30,000 that you've got to fund the refurb and to fund the mortgage payments. At the end of the first year, you can turn the £10,000 into £30,000. That's the first 6 months. The second 6 months, you can take your £30,000 and turn it into £70,000. Once you've got £70,000 working capital, you can be looking at buying around 4 properties. And once you've bought the 4 properties and done them up, and another 6 months has gone, because that's how long it takes to buy, do up and sell, you've added another £80,000 to your property pot, to your cash pot. Now you're really flying. Now you can start looking at buying 1 property a fortnight, i.e. 25, 26 properties a year. And you can start building your portfolio. You've got a great working capital pot. You don't have sleepless nights worrying about cash flow. Everything can flow through very nicely, and you can just become very wealthy very quickly. Build yourself a portfolio, build up a little bit more cash. I recommend that you buy every 5 properties you buy, you keep 3 and sell 2. That's once you've got to £100,000 working capital pot. So you start buying 3, selling 2. Now, why do I recommend that you flip lots of properties to start off with and build your pot up? Well, it's much easier to work with a nice pot of cash than it is without a nice pot of cash. And at the moment, in the current market, you're only going to be able to get somewhere between about 15 and 25 mortgages. You can't get more than that. So there's no point in going out and taking your £10,000 and buying 1 property, no money down, and renting it out, and that will take you around about 3 months. You can repeat that 4 times in a year. At the end of the year, you'll have 4 properties, and you'll have £10,000 if you've done it right. Move that forward over the next 3 years, you will have about 12 properties, and you'll still have £10,000. Now, I would much rather get to a point within 18 months where you've got £100,000 working capital pot, and you're buying 25, 26 properties a year, and you're keeping 3, selling 2. That means over the course of the year, if you're making £20,000 a time, you're going to be making £200,000 by selling them 10 properties in a year. And as you build your portfolio up, for every 5 properties you buy, you keep 3. If you're buying 25 in a year, that's 5 lots of 5, that's 15 properties you'll be buying to keep. That is after 18 months. That's from 18 months to 2.5 years, or from 2 to 3 years. So you'll be in a position of having 15 properties instead of 12, and 2, 3, £400,000 of working capital. That's a much better way to go. It takes a little bit longer, it takes a little bit more patience, and it's not the easiest thing to sell a nice property. And if you read many of the books in the good old days, everyone said, whatever you do, sell property. It's silly to sell property. However, things have changed. We've gone through the credit crunch. It's not the easiest to get mortgages. So whereas before you could pretty much buy as many properties as you wanted, and there was no shortage of different mortgage companies willing to lend you money, times have changed. That's not the case anymore. Banks aren't funding very easily on commercial property. You need to maximise what you can do from the leverage you can get. So by selling off at least 2 of every 5 you buy and not keeping anything until you've got at least 100,000 is the way to do it in the current market, in my opinion. That's the way you can become a property equity millionaire, how you can come financially free in a shorter period of time as possible. And if you do the strategy that I've just gone through, by the time you've done your third property, which should be within 1 year, and you've made yourself £60,000 profit, you should be in a position of getting your £60,000, £70,000, and adding another 80,000 over the next 6 months. Therefore, you can leave work at that point. You've already proved that by doing 3 projects that you can actually do it. Once you know you can do it, then everything becomes easy. You're up and running. You're making money. You're financially free, not through a passive income, but you're certainly making a much better living by buying and selling property than the day job that you will be able to leave behind within a year.